Hello coders, the Money here. Today we're going over an ability wheel data pack, so let's jump right in. Now for this demonstration, I created two custom wands. Kill the evoker, you have a chance at getting the nature wand. And if you kill a witch, you have a smaller chance at getting chaos wand. Now whenever you hold one of these wands, your offhand slot is occupied. This is to detect you clicking F as necessary. Nothing can replace this and nothing will be deleted. Now when you click F, the ability wheel on the action bar there cycles to the right and Q cycles to the left. Simple like that. The nature wand lets you dash, also increases your resistance so you can't be killed for 4 seconds. Lets you teleport in a 10 by 10 area. Notice I'm right clicking to use the ability, using F and Q to cycle around. And you have momentum freeze, which will freeze all momentum. Glide in the air. This may work well with power jump. Allows you to go up really high. Momentum freeze, so you don't take any damage when you come back down. Then you have the chaos wand. Summon a fireball. We'll throw in the direction you use it. Summon some wither skeletons. They'll attack you, but why not? Throw down lightning, which doesn't display with the shaders. And lastly, create a vacuum that then can be used to throw mobs and move them around. Now we're going to look at how all this works. If you're just there for the demonstration and want to download the wands, go right ahead. If you're interested in the systems, stick around. First off, we detect when a player has an ability wheel item. This is easy to do just with an MBT check and a ticking function. We also check when a player has left the game and come back in to update the display 5-tick function. Once we know the player is holding that item, we then check if they are just starting to hold that item to place the offhand item in their offhand slot. When you detect them clicking F by the means of a tag of the slot, which is different from main hand than the offhand, then we run some other functions if they're holding items. We then check the ability amount that the item can contain, and if their current ability score is too high, then you set it to 1. This is for items that have different ability amounts and you switch directly between them, then it can glitch the system, so this fixes that. This is where the personalization starts to come in. You check the ID of the item. Every item has to have its own unique ID for its class, so if you have 2 nature ones, they both have the same ID because they both are the same item. Then, depending on that ID, you run different functions. You're going to first want to empty the offhand slot. To do this, you summon a temporary item, you set its item from your offhand slot, you replace your offhand slot with air, and then you kill the item if it hasn't been changed. So if there was nothing in the offhand slot, it would still have that tag because the item wouldn't be overwritten. Once you've dropped the offhand slot, then you'll place the actual offhand item. In this case, it's an empty item, but you could have like 2 knives to wield them. I used it in my Shang-Chi Datapack to have the 10 rings and 5 on each hand. You'll notice this item has a slot of 2B instead of 1B because it is the offhand item. It also has the same ID as the item that's causing you to have this offhand. Then you add the tag so you don't miss every tick. You set their ability to 0 because they just picked it up. And then you run the display function. The display function does what you think, it checks for your ID, and depending on that, it will check for your ability and display the correct action bar. It varies item and can be very complicated if you try to use gradients and such. Then it runs the function 5 ticks in advance because you only need to do it every so often. Once you know the player's offhand item is in their main hand, you run this function where you add 1 to the ability score. This is because clicking F iterates the ability to the right. Then you get how many abilities the item has in total. This is important as you need to check if you need to set back to 0 to complete a full cycle. Then you move the offhand item into Shulker Box just to save it, because now you're going to move the main hand into the offhand. This is to switch it back so it does only work once. Then you simply set the main hand from the saved item. Then, obviously, you run the display function. Now there are a lot of commands in the holding item function. First off, you detect if there's a new item, meaning it has age 0s, and it is an ability wheel item, because that means most likely they dropped it from their main hand. You also detect if they are no longer holding that main hand item, because that means you gotta get rid of the offhand item. Then you detect if their ID has changed. This is because you can move between ability wheel items and you need to update the offhand item because some of them will have dual wheel items. Then you also detect if they are no longer holding their offhand item, meaning they grabbed it and in their inventory, or they moved it, they dropped it, whatever. And you're going to reset the offhand and also clear the items of the offhand. Then you'll simply run functions for the abilities. In the queue detection function, you need to check if it's the slot 1 or slot 2, because that means you put it in the offhand or the main hand. They're virtually identical functions, but it's important to know that. So when you're detecting that, you first get the ability mount of the item. You remove one because Q moves it to the left, and if it's 0, then you have to set it to the maximum amount it can be to complete that cycle. Then you drop the main hand of whatever the player's holding. This is important as they could have replaced it with something else with dropping it, and you don't want to override that. Then you simply set the current item, the dropped item, to the save shulker box and move it over using item place. Then you teleport it 1,000 blocks down and kill it so you don't see the flicker, and obviously run the display function. Now the ability function is honestly quite simple. If the player has used a character on sick, then it runs this use item function, resets that value, then it gets the ID, and depending on that, it'll run the different use item on functions, which based off of the ability will run their different effects. That's a nice thorough explanation of how the ability wheel system works. Thank you for watching. I hope this can be useful in your own creations. And as always, keep coding.